Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Week 9 Dynasty Takeaways. I am your host, Brandon, at the BG-C. Welcome in. Scott, you're back. You had a good week off. You're well-rested. You're refreshed. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good. I missed last week, but Shane filled in admirably. It was a little bit of a different vibe when you and Shane are going back and forth. Kind of felt like the original Dynasty mailbags that you and him did early in the summer. But glad to be back, man. The season's going by too quick. I was recording the Destination Dynasty show last night, and I did an episode. Anybody that missed it, I just talked about like 5 different archetypes of trades. It wasn't really talking players. It wasn't really talking the current market. But I was thinking the whole time, like, oh, I have plenty of time, Brandon, to go out and do these trades, right? Like, I got a whole dynasty season in front of me. And I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of people that have trade deadlines in the next 2, 3, 4 weeks. And we only have 5 weeks left before the playoffs. Like, time has flown. And so we're already halfway through the fantasy season, week 10. But here we're talking about week 9, injuries, recap, risers, fallers, trade targets, and dynasty takeaways. That is the title. No, I'm good.
I love it.
Good to be back.
That's good. It's good. Hey, why don't we just start speaking of injuries? Big injury last night. Jayden Daniels. It's been the hot topic of our Discord today. What do you do with Jayden Daniels, Scott? What do you do if you're contending? What do you do if you are now you're in it, but you've now lost your Jayden Daniels? And we talked a couple weeks ago about Malik Neighbors, and week 3 we talked about Joe Burrow. Like, this is the third kind of major roster construction asset that has went down this season already in the first 10 weeks. What are you doing with your Jayden Daniels? Because you have a couple in a couple situations, and they're very unique.
Yeah, it is the third first-round startup player that has been injured for effectively the season. I know they're saying Daniels' injury may not be season-ending, but dude, they're 3-6. They play the Lions next week. They're going to be 3-7 effectively with tiebreakers. I believe they would be 5 games out of the playoffs with like 7 left. Like, they're not going to get back into it. It's an injury where it's not his throwing hand, it's not his throwing shoulder, so he's probably 100% going into next year. But like, just not one where you're going to rush him back after 4 weeks to get him out there on a team that's already out of it. So he's done for the year. I think you have to kind of reassess, and you already had to reassess a little bit. I think the interesting part about Daniels, Brandon, is because he's already had 2 injuries before this. I think there were already people that were kind of reassessing, like, is he a player I can trade away and be a little more creative with what I get back and be okay with it? Because he maybe, at least right now, and I'm saying right now, with his second year of NFL football, he is not Lamar Jackson. He is not Josh Allen. He is not somebody that you're going to miss out on 4 or 5 straight top 5 seasons with no interruption, right? That's what you've gotten out of Allen. You're close to getting that out of Lamar, even though he was injured this year. Like, when he plays, there's just zero question, right? So I think you already had to reassess a little bit. Like, if you'd have told me you pivoted off of Daniels for Mahomes in a second in week 3, you weren't crazy. You know, you go down to your Herbert, Love, Mayfield. Like, I think you just have to kind of understand that if you're trading him away and you're taking back, I don't know, one of the gross deals we talked about in the chat was like Daniel Jones and a first for Jayden Daniels. Like, if you would have said that 6 months ago, people would have been like, you're insane. But here we are. But all you're doing there is just shifting your roster construction, right? Like, if you have Jayden Daniels and he is your anchor quarterback and you've been playing the gross QB2 game, well, maybe you don't want to pivot off of him there. But I think a lot is it's just changing your quarterback room. I am not scared to trade him away. I don't think he's earned that clout yet to where I just can't trade him. He's a first-round startup pick. There's no reason to move him at this value. I don't think we're there yet. So you have to be a little more creative. But that's the thoughts. I mean, I have specific examples, but if there was any specific things you wanted to mention aside from that, what else?
I'm looking inside of Dynasty Daddy, and I'm looking at the trade database, and here's a couple trades that happened just today. Okay. Patrick Mahomes in a 26 first, or Jayden Daniels in a 27 first. Dude,
Mahomes is a top 5 quarterback, and he's had 4 top 5 seasons in his career. I know he didn't do it last year, the year before, but that feels like you're bailing yourself out a little bit, right? Like, you're getting a direct replacement or better, and you're getting, 26, 27, I don't know where the picks are.
Well, it doesn't matter. I don't think it matters.
A lot of people
right?
would rather have a 27 unless they know that's the one 111, 112. Like, give me the randomness of the 27 that I can play with for the next year. That feels like a bailout, dude. That feels like you might have got the more valuable side with the injury to Jayden Daniels. So, yeah, bailout big time.
Bailout big time. JJ McCarthy in a first or Jayden Daniels? That's where it gets,
Isn't it crazy how 1 week can change shit?
Yep.
2 weeks ago, people are going, JJ McCarthy isn't even the starter. And now he comes back. He wasn't that good, but you know what? Nobody cares because he had a rushing touchdown. They won, so he gets all the credit, and Jayden is down for the year. That's a fair trade. If you're willing to bet on JJ McCarthy, if you're getting another one of those quarterbacks, and the thing about McCarthy that we kind of forget is even if he's not good, what does he have? Weapons. A coach that probably has some clue what they're doing. Like, he's not going to fail because he's been failed, most likely. He's going to fail if he's just not that good. So I think if you like McCarthy, that can also feel like a bailout, right? You can just put him in the spot where you had Jayden. You also have a first to play with. But that's the type of deal that you should probably target if you're willing to move off Daniels.
Here's another one. This one might be a little spicy. Jackson Dart or Jayden Daniels, straight up.
I mean, given the consideration of an injury and a non-injury, I think Dart's one of the 3 or 4 names that's not in the elite tier, where if you told me I'll take him rest of the season going forward, fine.
Yeah.
That might be the one, because here's what you want to do if you're trading Daniels. You want to either get extreme production, so like you're overpaying to go to Allen or Mahomes or Lamar, right? You're maybe losing some age value or some dynasty value, but you don't care because you're getting the BAM tier production. But I think if you're tiering off of him and you're doing it not in a deal where you get a first, right? So we're not talking about McCarthy in a first, Daniel Jones in a first. We're talking close to straight up. Maybe you swap a second and a third, or not a first value on top. You better get insulation with the quarterback you're getting back, right? A guy that has a floor, a guy that people like, and, May fits that, but May passed Daniels a while ago. And I do think Dart and maybe even McCarthy are some of the next in line that people could view like not that different. So I don't hate it. I don't hate that.
Yeah, I don't hate it either. Is it likely in most leagues? Probably not. But I mean, you might have to add a second to get to that point. But the point being is that, this is how fast the dynasty landscape changes on some of these players, whether we like it or not, whether that's clickbaity or not. The reality is, Jayden Daniels isn't the same asset that he was a month and a half ago, Scott. He's not even the same asset he was 24 hours ago. Like, these things change. And you have a couple situations where, and you could talk about them where, the reason why you would move him is because you have the ability and the flexibility to do that. So maybe why don't you talk about those 2 situations that you have?
Yeah, I think for me, the 2 scenarios I was thinking of are leagues where I went to elite quarterbacks. And both of them happen to be ones where I didn't pick the 2 elite quarterbacks in the startup. Like, I got Daniels in the rookie draft and I already had Lamar in one and Josh Allen in the other. I already have an anchor quarterback that's not named Jayden Daniels. So those teams are kind of already set up to naturally transition away from having him as my QB2. Those deals, I'm a lot more flexible with what I get back. I may be a little picky on the quarterback I take back, but the form of deal where I get the plus on top of the quarterback, I'm totally fine with that. So whether it's Love or it's Mayfield or it's Herbert, anybody that's kind of in that next tier that's in a good situation, Dak can probably fit in there. I'm fine. If the plus is worth it to me, I'm fine doing that deal, but it's magnified because I already have Allen and Lamar on those respective teams. The team build allows me to go away from it. I want to flip it around. How would you buy Daniels? And I want to put this caveat because everybody in the chat can say, oh, I'll buy Daniels on my 1-8 dog shit team. Well, of course. How do you buy him on your 5-4 6th place team? But you're kind of like, man, I don't think this team has what it takes to go all the way. I probably have to trade my first to get in the mix where I can win. And maybe instead of forcing a move where you trade your first, I got offered a similar deal to that, Brandon, over the weekend, right? My team was 4-4, but I was right in the mix for points. And someone offered me Javonte Williams. Okay, so Javonte Williams and another receiver of my choice that's like a wide receiver 3 type. So think of like a Xavier Worthy type or a Zay Flowers, someone like that. But I had to give up my pick that if I don't do well going forward, it's the 105. And I'm like, I have to decide right now. That's my typical way at first. And I'm not getting insulation. I need like 2 starters if I'm buying like the Javonte types. You know what I mean? But I chose not to do it. My team is going to win. But guess what? I'm still 5-4. I'm still like in 5th place. Now, how do I get Daniels on those types of teams? Like, are you doing the deals where you give up a Stroud and a mid to late first, that type of deal to get him? A Stroud and a mid first, that type of deal on teams where you're willing to go the other way?
Well, and I was just looking. There's a trade here on the database. It's CJ Stroud, a first and a second for Jayden Daniels. Like, I would do that if I can
3
get
for 1.
a 3 for 1, essentially, right? Which is like CJ Stroud, and maybe I can switch out the second. Maybe I can give an ascending wide receiver asset, so I can.
I think Stroud
second.
in a first is an offer that if you start with, the Daniels manager has to at least look at it. You know what I mean?
Right. Yep. And if you throw the second in because you know that they don't feel easy about CJ Stroud, how about I give you that Javonte Williams type? Like maybe that throws you over, right? That gives you Javonte. It's a 3 for 1 because it's a psychological thing, right? CJ Stroud, Javonte, and a first. Okay, that's not that bad. I'm contending. I can make this work, right? And it just yeah. I'm trying to think of maybe would you do Sam Darnold and a first to get that JD5?
Yeah. If your team is in that situation where you can benefit extrinsically by taking on the Daniels asset at this time and not care about the short term, like I think that's the way you get him. And I was just saying that it's very easy for the teams that suck to say, I'm trying to buy Jayden Daniels. I was listening to a podcast before we started, and they were saying, this is the time to buy Jayden Daniels. And immediately the analyst said, all your tanking teams should be buying Jayden Daniels. Now, I think what never gets talked about on content is, you know what a lot of times tanking teams don't have? The exact stuff that the team that's selling Jayden Daniels wants. They don't have a Javonte Williams just laying around, right? They don't have an extra quarterback. They're not willing to give up an extra first. So I think you have to do this on teams where you're probably somewhere in the middle. Maybe you're even angling towards the top half of the middle where you think you can sneak in the playoffs. But I think those are the deals. And Ray said it great in the chat. He said it a couple comments up. I think he said right here, the team that lost Daniels probably lost points. So they're hoping that you're able to give them something to sweeten the pot, not just a Stroud, maybe not even just a first. Like they're hoping you can say, hey, I'll toss you that Rico Dowdle thrown in. I'll toss you that extra little piece, even if they have to give you back a pick. They're hoping you have that contender stuff. And a lot of the teams at the very bottom, like how many leagues do you have, Brandon, where you're at the very bottom? You don't have much to sell. You're not sitting on a Christian McCaffrey. You're not sitting on a Javonte. You're not sitting on those types of players because you probably already moved them. So it's easier said than done for the tanking team to just go get Jayden Daniels. A lot of times they have the short-term fill-ins or the package to get it done. So it's more of the middle teams. Like if you're looking at a team and you know what, I have to be realistic, use Dynasty Daddy. Run the simulator. If it says you have an 8% chance of winning the title, like how many teams make the playoffs? It's not 12. So if you're at 8% out of 12 teams, you're like at 4%. Like that's not a team you should be holding out if you have the opportunity to get Daniels for one of these types of deals. Darnold in a first, that type of, I love that. But you got to do it on the right team and you got to propose the deal. They may not come to you because they see you're in playoffs. Brandon's team's 5-4. He's in 5th place. He's not going to want my Daniels. Well, maybe you do. So be aggressive on those teams.
Yeah. And I'm looking at this comment from Boyan. Shout out to one of our members. Like anything cross positionally that you would do to change your roster construction on those teams. Like you got Ibuka. Would you do him straight up for JD5? I don't think that someone's just going to want to do that one personally, straight up Ibuka for JD5. But I mean, you're going to have to get super uncomfortable too, because you're probably going to have to go higher than that. Would you really want to trade your Amon-Ra for JD5 if you're competing right now, Scott? Like, I don't know that I would want to do that. How far up the tight end ladder do you have to go to get to JD5? Do you have to get into the elite guys?
I think to Boyan's point, he used two specific words, roster construction. We all have teams where we're probably like, you know what? I have zero interest trading an elite skill player for a quarterback because I already have 3 quarterbacks, right? Then you might have another team where you go, I don't even like my quarterback room. If I could do that, this is the opportunity to get it done. So I think you do have to be diligent in looking for those deals in the spots that it makes sense. I think Igbuka for Daniels, that's probably one I would just do kind of off the rip and then figure it out. But your league's not my league. We're all in different markets. So not every league. I mean, how many times have you seen questions where people go, well, I already have Justin Herbert, Mahomes, and Jackson Dart. I can't trade one of them. Why would you want to take on a fourth if you know that's a league economy? So yes, I'm fine with this type of deal if the construction is moving you forward towards your goal or it's something you can live with. Like if you go, I'm going to need a quarterback next year and I'm just going to bite the bullet today, I'm fine doing that. But you got to know your market.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you can get Igbuka for JD5, great. I just don't know how many times out of 100 trades that happens. That's just that would be my only pushback, but it's definitely the way to try and go for it. Let's talk about Rico Dowdle, because he's starting now. And now all of a sudden is he, in the 3 games he's played, Scott, I mean, the ones he started, 100 yards plus. It's kind of funny. I'm pretty sure if I look correctly, I'm pretty sure they're 3-0 in those games. Like he's taken over the backfield. Is Rico Dowdle more of a hero running back, or is he just another guy? What is he to you?
I think that once you get over the fact that he was not the starter coming in and you've readjusted, that now he should be viewed probably a little even higher than where you had Chuba Hubbard going into the year. So he's probably like a low end RB1 to mid to low end RB2. He probably fits right in that top 20 every single week as long as he's getting. You know what the funny thing is? Like he doesn't even need to get this workload because he's been so good. Like he just needs to stay healthy. Because if you remember Rico Dowdle, I know Ray does. Rico Dowdle was pretty good in college, but literally for his entire rookie contract could not stay healthy. I think he went on the season-ending IR at least 2 of his first 3 years before the season even started. So this is like a meteoric rise to his last shot in Dallas last year, and then he hits free agency, goes to the Panthers, signed a really mundane 1-year contract, right? And then is doing what he's doing right now. I think what's interesting, Brandon, we were looking at Chuba Hubbard's contract. Like the Panthers aren't going to cut Chuba Hubbard. Not after this year. He's there for 1 more year, then they can get out of his contract. But I don't think this is a scenario where let me just say it's going to be interesting because they're not going to get rid of Chuba Hubbard. He just is probably a very expensive backup at this point. But if you're Rico Dowdle, I think Rico Dowdle was a 7th round pick. Maybe I'm wrong. He's either a UDFA or a 7th round pick. Made shit for money in his rookie contract. This was his best contract with the Panthers, a 1-year deal. He's not just re-upping with the Panthers. He's looking at the Chuba Hubbard deal going, minimum, that's what I want. You know what I mean? So I actually think he's gone from the Panthers this year because I don't see them signing another running back to the same type of deal that they already have and they probably don't want but can't get out of. So I think he's a very interesting one that could smash the rest of the way. But then he hits the market again. And if I'm him, I'm looking for the most opportunity for the most money. And I'm just curious how much you think is what he's doing right now situational. Is it a good fit right now with what he's doing with their run scheme and whatever they're doing? It's work. I don't know. He feels like one I just have to scale back and say he's basically what like Javonte Williams is now. I think it's a fair comparison. Their rest of season plays, but all they are is maybe a higher priority NERB on a 53 next year. Doesn't guarantee anything.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of how I'm treating Rico. Like I'm treating him pretty much the same way as Javonte. It's got to be year to year. Unfortunately, like he's on a 1-year, $4.5 million deal. Like he's in a great situation, and it helps the fact that Bryce Young isn't throwing it all over the place. I mean, shoot, we were joking around yesterday in the Game Day chat. The Panthers are about to win with Bryce Young throwing for 104 yards. Like
we went 102. I think he was 11 for 24 with 102 and an interception. Literally, the quarterback did nothing. Absolutely nothing. And people will go, oh, Bryce is winning. They're over 100, and you couldn't really play shittier than Bryce Young has, but it's working. They are 3-0. Their run production in the games that Rico Dowdle has gotten at least 20 touches. I saw a tweet earlier. I mean, it's ridiculous. They're the best running game in the NFL. And is that just as simple as this? Might be one of those scenarios, Brandon, where you're like, man, if we just get Rico 20 touches, we'll win. And you're like, well, then why don't we give him 4? You know, the old narrative of whenever you run the ball more than half the time you win or whatever it is. It's like, yeah, that works until you just say you're going to run every play. And then obviously it's not going to work. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I think you pay the sticker price. I think if you're selling, no problem asking for more than a second. I need a little juice. I need a second and an injured running back or something like that. If you're buying, it's probably more than a second. If you can get him for a second, fine, but you're not promised anything other than, I think when guys have these seasons like Javonte or Rico, they get more credit across the league than we think they should. And then somebody will sign them for a similar opportunity next year. So you're probably in for a soft landing if you bought them. It's not like they go to zero as soon as they hit free agency.
Yeah, I think what he's done is probably bought himself at least another opportunity in 2026. Right. And then where that opportunity is, whether it's in Carolina, whether it's in another backfield, because we all know there are some backfields that could certainly use a Rico Dowdle. Right. And he's probably going to command a pay raise, probably going to be in that. I would imagine, would it be shocking, Scott, if we heard Rico Dowdle signs for 3 years, $21 million? Like, I don't think that's out of the realm of like possibility, right? A nice pay raise with some opportunity. Like, he's good. He just couldn't stay healthy. And, he wanted to stay with Dallas, but Dallas didn't want him back. So he went to the next opportunity that he felt was best for him. And, as Ray says it in the chat, like, he's getting another nice job. Like, what that price is, I don't know. Would you trade if you're trying to acquire him because you need points? Would you send that Cam Scatterboo for Rico?
Oh yeah, that we talked about.
You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of
deal. The Scatterboo injury. Any running back you can get in that is a RB2-ish production wise rest of the season, I have no problem trading Scatterboo. ETN, Dobbins, Javonte, Rico, Brown, they're all in there. Who cares about the future? Like, yeah, 100%.
Like, that's the kind of guy. Like, those are the kind of guys that I would be fine sending off, especially because again, whoever's got Rico has found money. They probably were just. Going into the season, you could have gotten Rico for dust, for fab dust. So you're already in a win. You don't need to be trying to squeeze for a first. I don't think that happens. Could it happen? Sure, I'm sure somebody will send us to trade. Hey, look, I got a 26 first for Rico. Great. But most people are going to be like, I got a second and Caleb Johnson. I got a second and Tyrone Tracy. I got a second and Ray Davis. Fine, whatever. Like, I think there's definitely some room there. He's a good running back in a good system, and the Panthers are not completely terrible this year like they were last year, offensively and defensively. So, I mean, the Panthers are in the playoffs chase in the NFC, which is hilarious. But that's just how interesting the NFC has been. So they're going to ride Rico, and they got through one of their tough matchups in the Packers. Let's see what happens. Let's just see what, like Scott said, let's just stay healthy, please.
What's wild? I was just looking up some Rico Dowdle stats. So he was at South Carolina in college for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? He had less than 500 touches in his whole college career.
That's
and
nuts.
He only had 700. He had less than 700 touches in his first 7 years from college and his first 3 years in the NFL. And then he's going out there just this last year and a half and just publishing it. You know what I mean? Like, you would think this guy is a workhorse, and it's like literally that was the opposite of what he was. So it's maybe sometimes these guys, like, they figure out how to work their body and stay healthy. You know what I mean? It took him tons of injuries and missed time. Like, it's like he had that come to Jesus moment with his life. Like, if I'm ever going to make a career in football, I need to be able to figure out how to be healthy and how to get through this. So it's actually a pretty cool story that he went from where he did to where he is today. I mean, truly like an underdog story.
Yeah, it really is. It's a fun one. It's a fun one to watch, and I'm rooting for the guy because, like you said, the guy hasn't made a ton of money, and now he's possibly, 8 weeks from a payday that's going to change his career. And for us, for fantasy, like, he's a guy that we're going to be rooting for because he's scoring an inordinate amount of fantasy points at a high clip here. So, it's kind of like found money. Let's talk for the wide receiver position. The guy that stuck out to me the most was Drake London. Big time performance yesterday against a really tough defense in the New England Patriots, who have been kind of hard to kind of unlock against. And, we've been kind of on the Drake London train in the Discord. Ray's been the kind of the choo-choo train driver of that one. Like Drake balled out yesterday, 3 touchdowns. I mean, it's what do you do with a guy like what do we do with Drake? I mean, you just kind of ride that production, right? Because I mean, you're not going to expect the Falcons offense to kind of continue to run just through Bijan and Drake, but it seems like that's just kind of how they're going to operate the rest of the season, Scott. Like, are we buying into Drake, more as we get, through the rest of this season, or, is he still obtainable? I guess is really the question.
I mean, is he still obtainable? Yes, because he's not viewed as an elite receiver. But before this week, his usage was still elite, Brandon. I mean, he had a 7.99 Trinity coming into this week, right? So if you weren't already saying, okay, I'm going to buy based on the usage that he's gotten so far, and it just takes a 3 touchdown game for you to go, oh, he's so back. If you remember talking about the offensive environment score that I was talking through the last couple weeks, the Falcons were one of those ones that constantly showed up in the top 4, top 5, top 6. And largely it's because Drake London concentration at the top of their targets. I know they have Bijan, so that's something we don't factor in necessarily in Trinity, but like the environment is a good one. His usage is great. So I don't think this was an outcome where you were like, oh, I'm shocked that he had such a big game. Now, I think I'll push it back to you. How high does he go? I think it's clear he's a top 10 receiver. You could even justify rest of the season. He could be top 5 based on a lot of other factors with other players either not having quarterbacks that are healthy or teams falling out of the race or their own injuries. But like if you told me you have to pay top 5 dynasty receiver prices for him, that's where I think people start to get squeamish. It's like, how do you buy him? I'll give you Drake London in a second. You give me Malik Neighbors in a first. Are you doing that?
Yes. And I like Malik,
that's the type of deal that if you want to get Drake London, you probably have to offer something of value. It's not just going to be, oh, I don't like his quarterback, but like you're not just getting him for a first and a second, or a first, a second, and a throw-in. Like you probably have to come pretty hard with other assets. And I just think people fall short when you say, okay, is Drake London an elite receiver? You say the names Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra, Rashee Rice, Justin Jefferson, Puka. Like people don't quite put him in there already. So I think that's where it's tough to probably buy him because, of course, the person that has him is like, hey, he just scored 3 touchdowns. He's had elite usage all year. Why would I trade him for less than that? I just think he's tough to buy because people aren't fully sold that he's elite, but that's probably what it'll cost you to get him.
Yeah, I agree. I'm looking for those who are wondering what Scott said by 7.5 Trinity score. That just means that, or 7.99, 7.5 and above on the Trinity tracker, which you can find at ddfantasyfootball.com. That's elite usage. So he's getting the elite usage and he's turning that elite usage into fantasy points. So like that's kind of what we want, right? From a fantasy perspective, we want guys to get elite usage and the elite, and score the elite opportunity. For me, I have Drake London pretty high, and just because I don't think that they're going to change the way they're playing the rest of the season. I just like Bijan's going to be Bijan. Kyle Pitts is going to get sprinkled in a little bit. Feels like Darnell Mooney's kind of gotten phased out just a little bit, but I mean, can you take, and I see this one in the chat, like now's not the time to buy him though, but if you want to buy him, you can. Can I take that Rome Odunze in a first and go get Drake London? Because people think that you know what I mean. Like, can I take a guy?
I think you can, but at the same time, if you don't believe in London being elite, because I was looking weeks 1 through 8. So before this big week, he ranked 6th in the available receivers in Trinity. Now, Trinity, you cannot compare scores from player to player because they're on different teams, they're in different situations, etc. But what that tells me is he's getting usage in his offense, which we already know is at least a league average offense. My environment score says it's a little bit higher, but let's just say it's a decent offense. It's not a dog shit offense, right? Like he's right there with JSN, Amon-Ra, Jefferson, Garrett Wilson, Puka Nacua, Jamar Chase. So like his usage in his offense is just as good as all those guys. And so when you know that, you're then just saying, well, I don't like the name as much as some others, right? That's all it is. Now, on the contrary, if you're like, well, I like Drake London, but I don't think he belongs in that range, Guess who was 11th in usage coming into this week? Rome Odunze. And he had a 0. So I could argue getting Rome Odunze in the first might be an even better move to make, even if you're contending, because we know how receiver scoring is. It's very volatile week to week. A guy can have a 30-point game and a guy can have a 2-point game. Now, Odunze had a 0, which is really hard to do when you're getting the usage that he's getting. But I'd actually take the Odunze in the first side there and just bet on that. So you've turned me into now a seller if I can get that type of trade, personally.
Yeah. I mean, can I take Garrett Wilson in the first and get Drake London? Probably.
Give me the package.
You know what I mean? Like, some people want the package. Like, I think that's just the biggest thing is, you know, if you want Drake London, you're probably going to have to pay that price. If you want to sell Drake London, this is probably your week to go move him, because you're going to be able to sell off of that. You're going to be able to sell off of that into a tier that is maybe a half step lower, but still similar usage. And you can probably get a bit more of a premium than what you want. So again, he's probably the rest of season. As long as he stays healthy, he's a pretty safe asset. But you know, I don't know that anybody's going to want to go up, because he is, like you said, he had kind of like the ceiling performance. So where's the rest of the ceiling?
I am not adding a first to Rome Odunze or Garrett Wilson to get Drake London. Just not going to do it. And I like his situation better than those two, to be fair. But I'm not. That feels like the overreaction move to a week that you're not going to get to put in your lineup. And an overreaction to the point like you don't like Rome Odunze 0 and you're pissed off and you want to just move him. But yeah, I'm not doing either of those.
Well, you're going to have to pry the London from his cold, dead hands. All right.
Yep.
Let's talk about Brock Bowers, because my goodness, like, just full on explosion.
Oh, Brandon's got some sound effects now. We're stepping up our hosting game.
But 3 touchdowns, Scott. Like, just high-end bell cow Bowers. We've all been waiting for it. We had to sit here, and Geno's not good. The Raiders offense sucks. And Scott, he just came back with a complete vengeance and reminded us that he is the tight end 1 overall, right? Like, your window is closed. The 2024 draft price is closed. I mean, you and Ray were going back and forth last week on the Saturday community chat. Arande Gadsden. Yep, there it is right there. Should have been in VC Saturday night. Like, Arande Gadsden in the first was what Ray was trying to get out there to sell that Brock Bowers to get ahead of this game. And now, can you even buy Brock Bowers? Is he even attainable? I mean, because, like, it was a pretty big game yesterday. Like, that was a lot of fantasy points. Like, I think people realize
you cannot replicate the points and get them retroactively, right? Like, people know that. You know, you can't just trade for a player and you get his big week into your lineup. But I'll tell you what, the difference is people that had Bowers, and they'll be lying if they say they never felt the thought of, man, what can I get for him in a package or a tier down? And all you're betting on is that he's just not a difference maker. He's not separating himself from the field. He's not one of 1 or 2 or 3 players at his position that are lapping everybody by 20, 30%, right? If all you told me was he was in the range and he had a shot to be the tight end 1, that's a big difference than what you paid for him, how you valued him, etc. So I do think there was some cracks a little bit in the pavement from some of those managers thinking, I wouldn't mind that Gadsden in a first. I wouldn't mind a tier down where I get a tight end that's producing right now in a first. But those cracks have been completely sealed, paved over. They're brand new and fresh now. So it's the manager that now feels like, you know what? I have to change my mind on what I would ask for Bowers. Now, on the contrary, there's nobody paying the price for Bowers now. They're just not. Because it's back to what it was in the preseason, but there's a less option available now. I mean, think about how many of the veteran tight ends that were cheap that you might have valued coming into the year that are not doing anything now. And now it's like, what, Tyler Warren, Loveland, Gadsden. I mean, Kraft is down. Kittle's not somebody that anybody really values if they don't have him on their roster. Like, I don't know, man. I think it takes cross-positional and a lot of leverage going back to the Bowers manager to get a trade. It doesn't mean he'll get this production every week. I just don't think there's any thought that the person that drafted him with a massive advantage in mind is thinking about moving him today. So he's almost impossible to get, I think.
Yeah, I feel like, the key words are roster construction, right? You built your team with Brock Bowers being one of those cornerstone pieces, and now to move him, would you even trade Justin Jefferson straight up for Brock Bowers? Like, probably not. Would you trade Jamar Chase straight up for Brock Bowers? Probably not. Like, the Bowers manager probably is like, yeah, I want Jamar Chase and I want another piece. And then at that point, it becomes unobtainable, and it's like, well, you really weren't ever interested. Like, you'll see probably a couple people put Brock Bowers on the block, and when they ask for what they want, they never really were intending about doing Brock Bowers on the market unless they got this Godfather offer that was too good to resist, and those just don't happen that often.
Yeah, they don't. I mean, and I think your best shot is if you're willing to move a Warren plus. And Warren's been good, but if you kind of look at his usage, like, it's nowhere near what Bowers or McBride was in their peak. And I get it, he's a rookie. But I do think you have some opportunities. If you truly want to get Bowers, but you have Loveland or you have Warren or you have Gadsden, I think that's, and it was Kraft before this injury. We haven't really talked about Kraft, but that's another one. Like, there were a few select tight ends that if you would have come to the table with a first plus one of those guys, you could at least get in the conversation, right? You weren't getting in the conversation with David Njoku, Hunter Henry. Those, nobody even cares about those types of tight ends. If you have those types, you're better off just screaming those names than you are to even try to get anywhere with Bowers in a deal. But I think if you have like a Loveland in a first, I think you can at least approach the Bowers manager and they would listen, because it's the form of deal they might try to listen, unless you're going cross positional. But yeah, I don't even think a lot of those receiver deals get done.
Yeah, I don't either. I think it's probably, unfortunately, like, the window to try that trade was last week. Now people are just you're going to want Warren plus a first plus something else, and it's just going to alter your roster construction. And I don't think people, like, it's going to take it will take like a Bowers stinker next week for folks to maybe get back to that level. But even then, like, we've seen the upside of Bowers. We know that when he's healthy, he's going to produce at a high level, and people are really not going to want to get off of him. Just, he's, as someone said, he's Kukski, one of our members. Bowers is player one and overall in all formats. Like, I don't think that's that hot of a take. I don't think that's that hot of an overreaction. The people that get him want him to be that.
Especially in the leagues where, the higher the premium, the more the advantage is enhanced when he has a game like he did this week, right? I mean, you got formats where he scored 60 points, 65, 70 points, just because everything's magnified, right? Catches, targets, touchdowns. So, I mean, literally, Brandon, he came out off this injury. He was second in the league in Trinity. And I know you can't compare his player to player, but like, the only guy higher was Drake London. But we're talking like absurd usage for a tight end. Normally, if you're at like a 6 for a tight end, you're like, I can start the tight end pretty reasonably. A tight end that's in the almost 9-7. I mean, you might as well just call him like Amon-Ra St. Brown. You know what I mean? Like, he's literally the equivalent of that at receiver, but probably with even more upside given the way that they deploy him. So just ridiculous usage in the first week back.
Yep. All right, let's take some questions. We got a few minutes left here. Let's take some questions because we had quite a bit. Here we go. Week 9 takeaway. Glad they gave Dowdle the backfield. Bowers is king. And shout out Kyle Monungai. Ray was on the ball with him. Yes, Kyle Monungai had a no DeAndre Swift in that backfield against a very soft, fluffy Bengals defense. Had 176 rushing yards. Monungai's here to stay, right, Scott?
I think he is. I think he's earned. He was getting a workload a couple weeks prior to this, so it's not like he just took over because he got a spot start and he can't put back in the jar. I think this is a good DeAndre Swift game too, or DeAndre Swift opportunity. Like, he's not going to go away. He's going to be their starter. If anything, this is probably great for the Bears because they found a guy that can do some stuff that DeAndre Swift can't do. Yep. You know what I mean? Like, he's a good compliment. So I'd be buying Swift because the Bears are starting to figure out their offense. I mean, the one thing still holding back their offense is literally like Caleb getting on the page with the receivers, but they can run the ball. They were running the ball before this game. So I like buying Swift. If people are, I mean, I've seen some tweets. Oh, it's Monungai's backfield now. Swift's yards per carry is too low. They're going to just turn it over to Monungai. Like, I'll be buying Swift out of this.
Yep. Agreed. Bills officially expired as an asset. I wouldn't say that. I would say that maybe he's still a running back. It's just he's not what he was a few weeks ago. And I think that's the shift that we need to probably, when you're trying, if someone's selling Bill for cheap, I'll still buy into it, because I mean, somebody's got to run the football back there. Somebody.
He's not. Here's the thing. He's not in a good situation. He's gotten pretty good usage, not what everyone thought it would be, but like he's not in a good situation. And so, yeah, he can start him. You know what he kind of reminds me of? The early season Isaiah Pacheco. Like, Pacheco had good usage to start the year. He didn't get every carry, but like, you know what's kind of helped Pacheco turn it around a little before the injury was the team got better. The offense got better. You know what I mean? And that's the problem with Bill is the offense going to get back? Are they going to rely on him even more than they have? I don't know. But yeah, sure, he's fine.
Yeah, he's fine. He's like Tyrone Tracy. He's fine. Bad offenses, rough offenses with,
I think that's a very
lot
good
of
comp.
use with a lot of usage.
I'd rather have Tracy, honestly, because I think Tracy's offense, I know Tracy didn't do a lot yesterday, but Tracy's offense, I kind of think at least has some wild card potential. But I think that's a very fair comp. That's a very fair, like, he's going to get touches, but they're probably going to be poor enough results that this is not going to be what the backfield looks like next year, either for the Giants or for the Commanders. So anticipate him having to literally re-win the role that he won this year next year.
What would you need to move? What would you need to move Mariota in a 14-team Superflex lineup?
Do you need him?
Yeah, right.
Because I do think he starts the rest of the year. Brandon, could be, and I know this is a little out there, could this be, I was just thinking about this today, could this be an opportunity for Mariota to get back on that radar as a guy that gets another look?
I mean, sure.
Because he, believe it or not, he hasn't been great, but you know what he hasn't been? Terrible compared to what Jayden Daniels has done. So it's to judge him and go, oh, he stinks, but then compare him to what the starter's done. Like, he's just in a bad situation, right? They don't have any weapons. It's just not an offense where you're like, the backup's going to come in and start carry the whole offense. But like Jayden wasn't doing that either. So it kind of feels like Mariota, I think the way he's handled things this year, I don't know. I just wonder if maybe he'll be on the radar as a guy that I want to have now, but also wouldn't be shocked if you go into next year and he's at least in one of those situations where, you know, he could start early on because of a rookie, right? He could be like in a Brissett Kyler situation again next year, or maybe he gets some work because the things start to go downhill again. So yeah, fine.
Yep. So here's a little bit of added context. He has Dart and Lamar with his JD5. I'm assuming he had Mariota kind of just brought in as so he's got essentially 3 quarterbacks in a 14 team.
I think in that case, because you have JD already stashed, like, you don't need Mariota. I just would not ignore the fact that he's not just a rest of the season or a spot starter. In that type of format, there is extrinsic value to you having Mariota on your roster. So like in that case, a 14-teamer, I wouldn't sell for third. I need a third and something else I can use. I need a pick swap. I need a grade. I need another starter that can help me somewhere else. Or I add to him to get another starter. But you don't want to just, I think, and I've done this too, so I'm guilty as everybody. You just give away those backup quarterbacks for a third because that's the commodity price right now. But then you sit there and you go, man, how many times did people trade Jacoby Brissett 2 years ago when he was starting? 3 years ago when he was starting? You know what I mean? Oh, he's not worth anything. He won't start long-term. But if you'd have just had him, remember when Jacoby Brissett started even for the Colts? But then after that, he started for the Browns. And then after that, he started again for the Patriots. If you would have just had him on your roster for like 4 years, Brandon, you've gotten 20 starts out of the guy.
Yep.
Now, they haven't all been good, but you've gotten enough volume of starts where that was worth more. And a lot of these backup quarterbacks are going to continue to be in these positions where they get opportunities a couple times a year. I don't want to just give that away for a third, especially in a 14-teamer. So I needed to make something worth it for me. I needed something that can help me in that trade if I'm moving him, not just a third.
Old Big Diaz. He needs help. He's got JD5. He's JD5. I know this trade because I was talking to him. He's sending away his JD5, his Bo Nix, and the HN, and he's getting back Lamar, Purdy, and Kyron.
Well, Lamar easily over Daniels.
Yep.
I think we talked about it. We easily take the Purdy Knicks swap, whatever that is. It's not enough for me to not get bailed out on Lamar to Daniels price, right?
Right.
So the 2 for 2 is pretty easy. I assume the 2 for 2 is not going to get it done. So you have to add in the dynasty value of HN for Kyron.
And it's best ball.
Listen, best ball, I'm more likely to do it because I don't care as much about individual player value or individual spike weeks. I need active players. I assume it's also a sleeper league. You've been in sleeper best balls, Brandon. It hurts to see that Jayden sitting on the bench, doesn't it? That IR that you can't do anything with, and it costs you a roster spot. I mean, I think the tax here is in the form of you're just paying quote unquote downgrades for 2 players, but you're still getting back 2 usable. Hopefully Brock Purdy comes back. Usable, startable players. But dude, you're going from Jayden to Lamar. You're going from a guy that is out for the year to a guy that could be the number 1 quarterback for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I'm good. Just sent JD in a 27 first for Lamar. Too much? I don't think that's too much. I think that's probably pretty fair. That's a fair price.
Somebody would be willing to do that. That speaks to the previous deal, why you would take it, right? You're essentially getting a big trade-in credit by bringing in your broken Jayden Daniels.
7H John, would you ever trade a quarterback for 2 seconds in order to tank? He's considered doing this with Dak. I'm assuming you're trying to get points off your roster because there's a game that starts in 75 minutes. I wouldn't sell him for 2 seconds.
It has to be a massive windfall, like a 105 to 101 for me to even consider it. And I just don't think you can effectively tank that well and know how the potential points is going to work out to where you are locking in that much value. So the answer is no. But you know what? If you're in that situation, Brandon, you need to be creative.
Mm-hmm.
What injured QB can I go after? Can I get Brock Purdy? Can I get Brock Purdy in a second? You know what I mean? Like something where you actually do a deal that doesn't just give away a player, but it helps you with the goal of trying to move down a couple draft slots. So just be creative, look for deals, be flexible.
Yeah. Well, I think that does it for us for week 9 Dynasty Takeaways. Scott, you got a lot. We got a lot going on this week and next week. Do you want to tell the viewers what we got cooking up?
Yeah, this week is going to be a Mannequin Show, Dynasty Deal Show, Trinity. Probably do Trinity here in the next day or two. Have to get with Ray when we're going to do it. Probably going to be Wednesday. We did Wednesday Trinity last week. We liked that time slot. So the members that are in here, if you want Trinity live, it'll probably be sometime Wednesday morning, afternoonish, somewhere in there. And then Mannequin Chill on Wednesday, and then Dynasty Deal Show on Friday, along with all the other content. But next week, Brandon, different schedule. We'll announce the schedule pretty soon. But next week, there is going to be a huge, and we may still do some sort of like takeaway show, but probably not like this. I want to save a lot of the takes and takeaways and stuff for stream that we're going to be doing next Wednesday. So we are talking from this upcoming Wednesday, we're going to be doing a live stream. I think that's November 12th on the channel. Wednesday night, huge marathon stream with different events, activities, games, trivia, you name it. Think of like a wrestling or a UFC event, but Dynasty with all the creators on here. So it's going to be fun. More details to come on the schedule, but make sure you block that off on your calendar. And there'll be a couple of perks if you are a member and you're in there. You'll get some perks. Yep. So sign up for that trade and chill tier. Link is in the description if you want to become a member, but it will be free for everybody. And that'll be a week from Wednesday. Haven't even announced the time yet, but it's going to be a long show. So
a long one. Very long.
Pack up on the couch and tune into DDFFB for the entire evening. It's going to be a lot of Dynasty talk.
I mean, who doesn't want to see Ray versus Scott? Who doesn't want to hear Jay Rich, Shane? Who doesn't want that beautiful beard of Ty in the Dynasty Deal Show? And who doesn't want to hear me not talk? No, I'm just kidding. But I will be on there as well. So make sure you tap in. Make sure you like, subscribe. If you want to continue the conversations, ddfantasyfootball.com and or patreon.com/all gas. But until next week, we are out. Enjoy the Cowboys and the Cardinals week 9. We're out. Peace.